Hello. Welcome to another episode of The Horrific Podcast. We're two friends who live in different places but share a love for scary movies. Each week we both watch the same movie on our own and then record a conversation together about what we liked, what we hated, if we were scared, and maybe even some larger truths about why people watch horror movies in the first place. This season we're going to be focusing on horror subgenres and how they've changed over time. Hope you enjoy it, and thanks for listening. Well, we're back. Season 13 is finally here. I feel like all of season 12 we were just buying time so that we could be ready to do this one right.
I don't even remember doing season 12.
Honestly, I don't either. We recorded all the episodes before the holidays, and then we haven't actually made a new episode in a while. So, yeah. Time to knock off the rust and kick this thing off right.
Like it.
So season 13 is something we've been teasing for a while, and it's almost weird to make an episode about it because now we're just telling everyone else what it is.
Right.
Whereas typically, like, when we record, it's we both watch a movie separately, we don't talk about it beforehand, and then we just discuss it. But now we just have to, like, tell people about a thing. And I don't know how to do that very well, so...
So we should just not tell them.
Maybe that's what we should have been preparing for this whole time.
I know, yeah.
But yeah, we have an idea for season 13 that we're really excited about. And it kind of goes back to the combination almost of a couple previous seasons. So we did 100 Years of Horror, where we watched two movies from every decade from the 1920s to the 2020s and just kind of saw like how horror movies as a whole changed over time. And then we did a season that was very focused on like specific subgenres of horror movies. And now we're going to focus on how specific subgenres have evolved and changed over time.
Yep. Get more granular.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like if we started with like what we're doing for season 13, it wouldn't make sense because we don't know where we started at. Well, that came in 100 Years of Horror.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And then the focus on like the subgenres and kind of what they're, well, I think the thing that was interesting about it was we were looking at a lot of them through the lens of what the subgenres are today. But if you look back into any of those, like the subgenres have grown and changed and evolved and branched and merged and stuff. And so that's a really cool story. And so something that's interesting to me is just why are zombie movies in 2020 the way that they are? And that's the type of thing that we're going to talk about this season.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's kind of like getting like into subcategories. You know, back in the day, they would have categorized like Frankenstein and Dracula and monster movies. But we're saying, well, technically that's like the main category, but there's like subcategories. There's now like, you know, vampire horror.
Yeah. That's
all kind of tied to the same main category.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because you're totally right. Like at the time, they wouldn't have talked about like, oh, it's another vampire movie. They would have just talked about it's another horror movie.
Yeah.
But now, being able to look back on it and on all the movies that have been made over the last 100 years, it's like you can see where some of those early movies of like became way more influential than anyone would have predicted and spawned their own thing that's now very distinct.
Right.
So the format of this season is going to be that we do like 5 episode sets on different subgenres. And the first one that we're going to do is zombies.
Which is like it's one of my favorites for sure.
Yes. And it's also one that has gotten more interesting to me the more horror movies that we've watched.
Yeah.
And I think that the 100 Years of Horror for me really made me appreciate this more or find it more interesting, like sort of the evolution of the zombie genre. And so with this first 5 episode set, we're going to go into, you know, movies from different points that I think we find significant in the history of the zombie subgenre. And we're going to revisit a couple of ones that we've already done episodes on, but with a different focus. And also, we're going to use each of these movies as kind of a jumping off point to talk about like what was going on with zombie movies at the time and why the particular movie has significance.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, you know, when we started talking about season 13, like this first batch with zombies is what makes me so excited just to think about. There's just so much tied to, like, I feel like just an average horror movie fan, or I'm just going to say movie fan, like, it's just like, yeah, I like zombies. Like, and it's just kind of all bulked into one. And we're saying, yeah, but there's like, it started out here and now we're here. How do we, you know, kind of get there with this specific, you know, we're dissecting it. I'm just so stoked to do that. Like, I really like to know where things come from that I'm interested in. And like, this is also not just for the listeners, but for us as well. Like to just really learn as much about this stuff as possible and watch some good movies while at it. It's a win-win.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also really interesting to me that we could have movies like 28 Days Later and Shaun of the Dead come out at roughly the same time and both be pretty successful. Mm-hmm. Because you certainly wouldn't call those the same type of movie. I mean, they are definitely zombie movies, but they come from like a totally different lineage and have a completely different tone. And, you know, you would call Shaun of the Dead, like you would rope humor into how you describe that type of movie. And 28 Days Later is most definitely not funny.
Right.
So like both are zombie movies, but they are very, very, very different. So how is it that we got to the point where, you know, in the beginning we say a zombie movie is about Caribbean voodoo to now when we say a zombie movie is really more of a broad set of, you know, staging for a movie that tells a more human story or something. Yeah. So it's going to be fun. I am more excited about this than anything we've done in the past.
Yeah. It'll be a good time. So we're going to do zombies, this first one. And then the other thing I think I really like about this is that we just get to decide where we go to next.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to tell people what we're doing for each one of these and then stay really focused on it and then move on to the next one. So we don't even have like everything done laid out for the rest of the season, but as we move forward, we'll have a chance to kind of be flexible and work with it. So, Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if there's any specifics to the zombie genre that you guys want to hear, shoot us an email. Let us know. We'll look at it. Probably make fun of you guys behind your backs.
Especially if they're from South Dakota.
Don't even try if you're from South Dakota. Like, I got filters. Oh, no. Anyway, if there is one, though, please let us know. We legit won't make fun of you. But if you let us know, we can at least avoid those so we don't have to talk about things that you guys want to hear. This is all about us this season is where I'm getting at. Like I did hey, we did your guys' favorite, you know, thanks for listening from these states, whatever. This is for us. Okay.
Yeah. But we might still make fun of Kansas.
I mean, you can't just not hit a home run from a lob ball, you know?
Word. Can't just drop the bat when the zombie's walking by, am I right?
Yeah, I heard that, man.
So yeah, next week we will be back, and the first movie that we're going to do is White Zombie from 1932. Typically, everything that I've seen at least, you know, says this is the first like full-length zombie film, and so it's going to show off a lot about what sort of thinking around zombies was in the early days of zombie movies. And let me tell you, if you're not familiar with it, quite different than what we see today.
100%. Something also I think is actually super important to know is if you use like Real Good to like find where this movie's at,
which everyone should.
Which you should. It's on a whole bunch of different sites, and even like Pluto TV, which is like free. There's 3 different versions technically on there,
Yeah.
but they're all the same movie, just different audio quality or ones in color. So don't get too fooled. It even has different descriptions for each one. So just for the record, any of those will do.
I prefer Tubi.
Even Prime, I was like, are there two different white? Like, what is this hellhole that I'm in right now? One of them was color and it was free, and the other was black and white and it wasn't. I was like, wait, is this two different? And they both had had different descriptions. I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what it was.
And that's it for today's episode. If you've listened this far, then thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We're always looking for new ideas, so if you have any questions, comments, or movie suggestions, please send us an email at thehorrificpod@gmail.com, or feel free to comment on or message our Facebook page. Just search for The Horrific Podcast. Thanks for listening.
Sorry, 2 seconds. I gotta look something up before I embarrass myself in front of our listeners.
I do that enough for both of us, Daniel.